The tonality of Zeta can be described as warm, moody, and pleasant. Upon first listening, you might find that Zeta is somewhat generic and pedestrian. However, very soon, the bass and the warm mid-range will start to suck you in and never let go. These IEMs work incredibly well with commercial music. They also work very well with orchestral and cinematic music, though from my personal preference, I prefer the mid-range to be a little bit more open and the treble air to be a little bit more emphasized. Let's break down the response of Zeta. The star of Zeta's tonality is the bass response. The peak of the bass shelf is also the highest point of the entire frequency response. So that means Zeta has bass emphasis. However, the emphasis on the bass is not as extreme as a true bass head IEM like the 7Hz legato. Zeta focuses on the sub-bass region, but it does not neglect the mid-bass region. As a result, you can hear and feel the bass. The mid-range of Zeta is warm and it has a thicker note weight than neutral. There's a solid boost of 5 dB above the neutral in the lower mid-range region, around 550 Hz. Depending on your music library and preference, this tuning can be either musical or moody. The upper mid-range of Zeta is mild but correct. The ear gain from 1 to 4 kHz have the right shape and a sensible amount of only 8 dB above neutral. So this tuning ensures that most instruments and female vocals are natural. That means no hollowness, no honkiness, no boxiness, or any other kind of nasties. At the same time, Zeta's mid-range is never shouty or in your face. The treble region is another star of Zeta's response. It provides, the special effects to the mild and warm mid-range, making the whole listening experience exciting and special. So the treble region has 3 interesting characteristics. The first one, there are emphasis around 5 and 8 kHz to improve the note definition and highlight the note attacks such as blocking of the strings, bow attack for string instruments, or stick impact on percussion instruments. This kind of treble tuning also provides sparkles to cymbals and chimes. Secondly, we have a strategic dip around 6 to 7 kHz to remove hardness and sibilance. Finally, we have slight roll-off in upper mid-range region from above 10 kHz. Luckily, the all-important 15 kHz region still maintains an adequate level of energy. I would say the balanced armature and electrostatic tweeters work together very well to create a smooth yet highly detailed treble response. Personally, I find the treble quality to be addicting. In summary, I say the tonality and tuning of Zeta is a lesson about balance. It is mild, warm, and pleasant, but at the same time, it can also be powerful and exciting. With that being said, I do have 2 complaints. Firstly, the 250 Hz, the lower mid-range region, could be dropped by a few decibels to open up the mid-range just a touch. Secondly, the air region, around 15 kHz, could be further emphasized to highlight that addictive ESD treble. So, based on these points, I would say Zeta's tonality is around 4 out of 5. Good, but it could be even better. The bass response is without a doubt the foundation and the brightest spot of Zeta's performance. This IEM renders percussion notes with clear attack, full body sound, and resonating decay. I would say the Zeta falls somewhere in between the more controlled presentation of the U-T and the on-out bass head presentation of the legato. For example, when I listen to Hotel California, the 1994 live version, with the iconic drum line at the beginning, I find that the Zeta's kick drum attacks are slightly less snappy than the U-T, but at the same time, every kick was sustained longer, allowing me to appreciate the texture and the detail better than the U12T. The decay of the drum kicks are also more extended, as if the decay is resonating across the soundstage. Comparing to the legato, the Zeta has slightly less bass quantity, but better control. So I would say even though the Zeta might not surpass either of these IEMs in terms of their unique strengths, it certainly holds its own in terms of the quantity, the bounciness feeling of the bass, and also the control comparing to something like the legato. At the same time, the percussion rendering of Zeta is above the textureless, undynamic bass that usually found amongst the mid-fi IEMs. So I would say 5 out of 5, excellent. The resolution of Zeta is what you expected from a pair of high-end IEMs. Note definition is sharp, instrument separation is clear, and music reproduction is rich in details and texture. As an example, let's consider the presto movement in the Summer Violin Concerto. This piece is good for testing the resolution and separation because it contains dense and fast passages full of overlapping instruments, forcing IEMs and your audio source to reveal their weakness. The Zeta maintains clear outlines of the instruments, making it very easy for me to track individual instruments in orchestra. When I do back-to-back A/B test, I immediately notice that Zeta is above a good IEMs like Blessing 2, in the sense that Blessing 2 would sound more congested and blurry, especially in the busy opening phrase of this movement. I also found that Zeta is more articulated than the Campfire Audio Andromeda throughout the whole piece. Only against the U12T is when the Zeta reveals its weakness. The U12T offers more instrument separation and more nuance within each instrument. Another example that I usually use to test the detail retrieval is the flute partita in A minor. Again, the Zeta sounds noticeably more fine-grained and detailed than the Blessing 2. I can also hear more ambience and air nuances with the Zeta. The detail retrieval capability of the Zeta is roughly the same level as the Andromeda, but one step behind the U12T. So in summary, Zeta is an accomplished IEM in terms of both detail retrieval and clarity. It operates at a flagship level, but not necessarily the flagship of on flagships. So I would say 4.5 out of 5. Very good. The Zeta does not have the widest soundstage. However, it has a very decent sense of depth and layering. This presentation allows for a very clear distinction between instruments that are closer and further away on the soundstage, resulting in a three-dimensional illusion that is particularly impressive when you listen to orchestral or cinematic music. For example, when I listen to Synchro by Tokyo Kosei Wind Orchestra, Zeta can provide a similar sense of depth and layering as the Andromeda. However, the structure and the presentation of the soundstage is slightly different between these two IEMs. The Zeta tends to put everything at the center of the stage, with the background layer wrapping around it. The Andromeda, on the other hand, tends to diffuse or spread the instrument across the soundstage. Still, both of these IEMs can create a 3D sense of soundstage, and they are definitely ahead of a typical good IEM like the Blessing 2, which tend to have a wide but significantly flatter 2D presentation. So, to sum up, I say the Zeta is not disappointing in terms of soundstage imaging. It offers a decent level of soundstage width, and it can create an out-of-head staging with certain recordings. It also has excellent depth and layering. The only drawback is that it lacks some of that instrument diffusion across the stage like the Andromeda or the U12T, so preventing it from delivering a fully holographic experience. Nevertheless, I say it deserves a 5 out of 5 rating for the excellent performance in terms of soundstage and imaging. You don't need a lot of amplification to make these IEMs loud. However, you can use high-end devices like these music players to get the best performance out of the woofers and the ESD tweeters in these IEMs. For example, if you upgrade from a micro device like this one to a full-size device like this Shanling M6 Ultra, you will notice an improvement in terms of the soundstage and clarity across the spectrum, especially in the bass region. If you use a top-of-the-line device like this L&P P6 Pro, you will get even punchier bass, and at the same time better control in busy recordings such as the Skyrim's main theme. Conclusion time. Whenever I approach a high-end or top-of-the-line IEMs like this Zeta, I always have two questions on my mind. The first question is, does this IEM belong in this price range? The second question is, what kind of sound does this IEM offer? Would it fit my preference? In case of the HiBy Zeta, I believe the answer to the first question is yes. This IEM performs at the level you expect for a top-of-the-line high-end IEM. For the second question, I would say Zeta has a pleasant tonality and presentation that you would unlikely to hate, unless you are seeking the most pristine clarity, open listening experience. So in overall, I would recommend these IEMs with some reservation. So that's all about Zeta. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope that I will see you again next time. Bye for now.